Well, don't blame Mike. I appreciate everybody coming like this, and we talked about this the other day, trying to fit something in here just to kind of catch up. And we've been moving, obviously, and the most important thing has been the fact of getting to know this team, getting to know these players. When we hit the court today, it'll be our, let's see, this is going to be our 12th workout today, so that's good. And we're getting that kind of time spent. We'll have our 13th weight or strength and conditioning speed type workout today. After that, we'll do it again tomorrow. Certainly I've tried to do as much as I can with recruiting inside of those rules, trying to be the places that I need to be, trying to meet people, and I have, and I've seen a lot, but the most important thing by far is to build that connection with this team and start to get them to understand what kind of program we want to have, what we want to implement. You know, you can come in and you can talk about vision a lot, you know, which you do at the beginning, but you gotta act it out every day with them. And it's one thing to talk about it, it's a whole other thing to be out there with them. So I'm really excited about the way they're working. I'm excited about their attitudes. We're making improvement. I'm very patient with it because I know we're trying to do different things with them. They have certain skill sets already that they had, but there's certain skill sets we're trying to develop. And I think as a coach, you got to have perspective on that. You got to have patience on that, but you can't stop being demanding on that. And that's exactly where I think we are. So rather than go into another 25 minutes, okay, I'll open it up right now and let you go.
I believe it was 27.
Well, yeah, but see, I just took 2. I just took, see, I said another 25, right? See?
What's your overall impression? I mean, was it? I know you got to be coach speak, but I mean, were you like, oh gosh, we got a lot of work to do, and obviously Maton's a big loss off this team. But your first impressions of what you're.
Yate's with us more often than he's not, believe it or not.
Is that right?
He is. He was at our first team meeting. He was at our first workout. He's leaving for Portsmouth tomorrow, but he would very likely be out there today. And he does double sessions with us, and then we end up spending time together working on his shooting and things like that after. So it's like he never left, even though when I leave there I know he has. But I just look at it as a tremendous opportunity. And the one thing I haven't done as much lately is watch film of us. Spend more time on that court. And I think what's going to be fun for me, because we'll hit the dead week where you have the week before exams where you can't get on the court with them, and then we'll get back on the court after their exams. And when we get that little bit of time left before they leave in May, is kind of look at where we're at now, look at where they were on film, and keep making sure that everybody's got the right progression for where we want to go. But we have numbers. You know, we have 10 scholarship players out there every day. We have 2 walk-ons. So we got a couple of full team workouts. Today we'll do a 6 and 6. A lot of times we do 4, 4 and 4. And we'll go anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on, or 40 minutes, I should say, depending on where we're at. But I've looked at it in a really good way. It's just been all about the teaching, getting the progression right, adding things, and it's fundamental driven, but there's like a speed element to that fundamentals, and there's a pace element to that, and getting them to build, you know, some mental toughness through the fatigue and not get frustrated when they don't have something right. And I think it's important that I set the tone on that. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Are you moving along on the other 2 assistants pretty good?
Well, I'm moving it. I think the one thing, this is why you don't realize you've grown till you like get in the situation. And I think for me being in here, this being the 3rd time I've taken over a program, I think you really start to learn about what's urgent, you know, what's most important, what has to be done on a daily basis. You have a plan, a vision. You know, certainly we'll tweak it, but the bottom line is the most important thing, no matter what, was to get acclimated with this group on the court, get going in the recruiting, be at the places that we need to be, meet the people. I'd love for you guys to be able to see us work out. We've checked that it's not legal to do right now, you know, at this time of year, but I'd love for that to happen. Mike and I looked into that. But the most important thing is getting them right. And I'll say this, because I'm sure somebody's going to ask. With Jonas Hayes, the first couple of weeks here, I'd never met him before the Friday, and I only met him for like 3 minutes the day I got here. But from that Monday on, we were together an awful lot, including this morning in there. And he has helped me immensely get acclimated in this area. And for that, I'll always be grateful, because we hit the ground running in the basketball, we hit the ground running in the recruiting. And obviously, you're the Georgia head coach. Doors are going to open, but Jonas certainly helped open those and helped bridge some of those gaps in relationships. And we'd have loved to have him stay. I mean, there's no question about it, but I totally get where he is at in this and wanting to have something for his growth. And I think he's a head coach. I'm going to be a head coach. It doesn't matter. Would I like to have helped him grow into it from here? Absolutely. But he's going to be able to grow into that. I mean, that's what his capabilities are. And as much as I'd like to have him stay, I do totally understand that he wants to step out into another area, into another part of the country, into another league, and take those next steps. And I'm going to be a fan. And as we turn this program to where it can go, he's going to deserve as much credit as anybody else in helping that. But with that being said, though, we've really tried to hit the ground running every day with what we can cover.
One more Jonas question. How much will him?
I'm sorry, guys. Can we do names?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, Anthony Dash,
Sure.
UK Sports. Call me Dash. Everybody else does. As far as one more Jonas question, with him, like you said, stepping out kind of a little bit. How much you think that will maybe expedite or help his goal, like you said, of being a head coach?
Well, that remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. I mean, and he made that choice, and so all you can do is support it. But I know this: I'm always going to support him. I mean, I've only got a couple of weeks' knowledge of him, right, and working with him. But there's no question that I feel great about him. So I'll always help, and I'm sure he's going to have other people who help. But this gives him another chance to broaden his scope and horizon and learn different things. And being in a different region, I get it. So I don't think there's any question there's going to come a day he's going to be a head coach.
You think not having him hurt you with some existing recruits here in the state?
It hurt us already?
Hurt us already.
I think the most important thing, no, because I think it's been good. Here's what I think, okay? There's people in the state that have been to Georgia. They've been recruited by Georgia. They know about Georgia. Heck, there's probably quite a few that know more about Georgia than I do at this point when it comes to the campus. We need to get people on campus, right? It's not just seeing them in their place. It's them seeing us. And we have got to get the unofficial visits, the official visits, whatever it is, where they can come in and see these workouts. They can come in and see the film of how we're going to play. I think that's the most important thing, because the bottom line is you want a staff that helps complement you, that you can try to build them into being as good a coach as they can be to help them to become head coaches. I've had 8 or 9 guys become head coaches. So that's a huge part of it. But at the end of the day, I was hired to run the program that we've run in the sense of the style of play and what we're going to try to do. And you got to get people to come in and see that. And until we get that part of it going, where people are actually here and can feel it and feel the energy and see the work and be around the environment and see the players, and then be able to look at it and say, here's what's, because we don't have a body of work yet, right? Like when you get the game film, well, now you got a body of work. Well, we don't have that. And it's always been the most important thing to me, wherever I've been, is for players and their families to see you practice, to see your individual workouts, to be in a film room with you, to be there and really sit down and talk inside of that environment. And we've got to get to that. And until we get to that, we're going to be behind in those areas. But I don't have any trepidation on where we're heading with it. We're trying to evaluate every aspect of it, whether it's what we have now, what we want to try to get. And at the end of the day, I want to put together the very best staff that has the complete understanding of what we see Georgia becoming. And I think that's where we've got to really make sure that I'm taking the time to do that the right way.
Tom, General, right?
Sir.
Channel 2. What qualities about Coach Dollar convinced you to hire him?
Well, I've always respected him because of the name. Because, I mean, again, I wasn't from Atlanta, but I knew about his dad, and I knew about Cameron, his brother. But I think the bottom line, I saw him work this year when I went up to South Florida, because we don't live far from there. And Brian Gregory's been a 20-year-plus friend and a close friend. We were on Tom Izzo's staff together. Tom Izzo's first staff, we were together on. So he was the one that actually brought it to my attention. And then some others did, but Brian was the one. And without that cosign, without that, this really means something to him, because that's what you want. You want people that really want to be at Georgia. I want them to want to be with me, but you want them to want to be at Georgia. You want the combination. And I knew of him, spent a little time with him, had him up last week, and did my research. He did his research, and I think he's going to be fantastic. I think he'll be excellent on the court. I think he's got a toughness. I think already he's not afraid to give me ideas, and he's not afraid to tell me where something could be better. And I don't mean afraid. Afraid is not a good word, but a lot of times people will wait. But this is a basketball relationship that we're hoping is going to be together, and it's how do we make young people better? How do we recruit people to join in? And I feel really strong about that with him. I know he's got a great work ethic. I've seen him on the court. Like I said, he's played the game. He's been around some really good coaches but he has truly, for a guy that's got the experience he has, he's got a strong mind of his own, a strong opinion of his own, and that, ultimately, what you want more than anything else on the court, what you want more than anything else in recruiting, is you want somebody that will go deep with your players, that will not walk away when it gets tough, that will not be afraid to challenge them and push them in the direction that they've got to go. And that I say that because it's a lot easier said than done. And I think he's got a conviction of spirit and a conviction of what he believes in, and it's going to mesh with us. That he's going to be really good with that.
Also, you mentioned developing the skill set of your players, and you've also mentioned you like scoring the basketball
Absolutely.
and shooting the three ball. Is that one of the areas where they need to develop and improve?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, there's no question. The shooting percentage, that has to go up. I mean, that you could look at a lot of different statistics, and a lot do have to change. It's just the way that it is. But the shooting percentages are going to have to go up. But right now, we can't do anything about the shooting percentages. We can do more about the technique, the footwork, the follow-through, the spacing, all those different things. And they're learning new things, right? And we're looking at every player's, there's certain ways that have really worked for us. I mean, in leading the BCS schools over those 9 years in Indiana and three-point percentage, there's certain things that really work. Leading the Big Ten over a 6-year period of time and scoring, there's things that really work, but it's also got to be individually tailored to the player, to that individual player. So we're trying to figure all that out right now, get the footwork down, get their balance right, get our passing right. I would say 90% of the workouts we've had, the first 8 to 10 minutes have totally, it's been a passing element, like really, really conducive to understanding how to deliver the ball, all the different passes that go in, the angles of the passes, the stretching, the right, the left, the footwork, all that in passing. Because everything, whether it's the passing, whether it's the footwork and the shooting, whether it's the spacing, that increases every other part of the game. I told Derek yesterday, we've hardly worked on any post moves with him. And obviously there's a guy that has to get better finishing, right? Well, we're working on his finishing by being away from the basket, working on his footwork with the ball, working on his footwork for a three, working on his footwork for a driving kick, for a handoff, because all those things are going to help teach him or add to him being better around the basket as we go. So it's all part of the development.
Jason Bell with the Telegraph. Did you say working on a three with Derek?
Absolutely. Everybody has it. Absolutely.
Just wanted to clarify that. Also,
I said it with a straight face. Now, here's the thing, okay? Does that mean if we were ready to play a game today, be shooting that three? Maybe not, right? But we don't play a game today. And I remind them of that. I mean, this is April. I have no trouble reminding them of the date because it reminds me of, we got a long way to go. There's a long time to get there, but every day has got to be maxed out the right way. We're developing their field. Now, I didn't say he's shooting threes right now in a game, right? Because there's no game. That we're working on the footwork. We've got a 4-point line out there. The NBA line has got you can take a picture of it. The NBA line is now in blue, and we'll get it painted down permanently. But the 4-point line is not to shoot bombs. It's to learn how to play more of a downhill game, how to get your shoulders square, how to come off the dribble even more. And that's what we believe in. That's what we're working on, and there's a progression to all of this.
go ahead.
Charles opened with AP. You mentioned the doors, but Jonas opened for you.
Sure.
Obviously, Coach Dollar friends with Atlanta ties. Can those ties open some of the same area doors?
Sure. But you know what? I need to be able to walk in those doors too, right? And it's like you come to a place, for me, right now it's accessibility, it's validation, and the validation is this: we're involved in basketball. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a family, whether it's a player, and then you take the relationship from there. And then certainly you tie into the development, not only on the court, but what's going to happen off the court. You start to dive into the academic environment, the structure. You bring up, for me, a lot of it is going to be, here's what we did in the past, here's how we think it applies here, here's where we want to go at Georgia. And you try to get that across to them. But no question about it. And Georgia, it's Atlanta, it's the state of Georgia. I'll be in other parts of Georgia here soon. I've been to South Georgia, I've been in Atlanta, I've been to Augusta, all those, not for the golf tournament, but to recruit. I've been in these different areas, and that's what we got to keep doing, and just make sure that I try to go from the place, and I keep saying this, but no matter how important and no matter how urgent so many things are in places that you got to be, the most important people right here have got to be that we're making sure we're getting the most out of our days with this team inside of our time frame that we're allowed.
Tom Workweiser, Athens Banner Herald. you have one scholarship left this cycle, is that right? So are you looking at a grad transfer, or are you looking at a high school guy, and how many people have you targeted for that one spot?
There's no number on the target. There's a lot of evaluation on it. And some of it's going to be timing. Some of it is really, I don't want to do, and this would be really easy, like we need to get better shooting the ball. Well, these guys are going to get better shooting the ball. So we've got to keep looking at what adds to us, okay? Maybe for a one-year situation, maybe over a longer haul, just what becomes the best fit. So I'm not married to any certain thing there. A lot of evaluation, a lot of film. We start to hear about people. We start to get a call, or we start to read. You know, we start to learn about somebody. There's so much film in there, and our guys are working overtime. They're in here with me. Our managers and grad managers and Matt Bucklin, they're in here with me. You know, the nights, last night it was 12:30, I think, before we left here. I mean, they're in here. They're putting the work together so that we can study it and evaluate it. And I'm just trying to cover as many bases in here as I can before we cover the bases out there.
Vance, how do you teach better ball handling, particularly at the guard spot?
Well, you got to get them to get the ball out in front of them. And first off, we don't teach dribbling as much as you teach driving. You want to drive the ball, which means it's a combination of a lot of things. It's your shoulder dropping, it's your foot turning, it's your hip turning, it's the ball getting out in front, it's your eyes staying lifted. Big thing is pounding the ball. And I always talk to guys about pound that ball like you're pounding it 10 feet in the ground, right? That doesn't mean over dribble or over pound. That means pound it, get it out in front. And what these guys are learning now, what's been new for the managers and the graduate managers, is we put these hand pads. They're basically boxing sparring mitts, or we put body pads. And one thing we've had in the past is we've had very physical, either managers or graduate managers. You know, I've had former football players that were in those roles because it gives them a real element of what it's going to feel like. And we're trying to get those guys to understand that right now. And we got a lot of balls being kicked. I shouldn't say a lot of balls, a lot yesterday, but we're trying to get people to stretch their games. And before you can stretch their games, you got to stretch their minds in the sense of what they're capable of. And even when they don't know that they're capable of it, or they're frustrated because they're not getting it, you got to stay with it. But it starts with the passing. All right, the passing then leads to the driving. There's a lot of whatever we're doing with one hand, we're doing with the other. We've had groups a couple of times. We have 4 left-handers together. We put them together. Last Monday, we probably spent 90% of the time building how we're going to play with our right hand, because that's the time of year, that's the element that we want to have, and we never want to get away from that fundamental part of it. So driving the ball and the decision making and the ball handling, all those things are like everything else. You got to have certain things that are non-negotiables, and then you got to teach them to have creativity, flexibility inside of that.
Coach Jeff May with the Red Flag. In your opening press conference, you mentioned that you want players to be versatile. And you specifically mentioned Nicklas Claxton as one of those guys. How much have you seen that from Claxton, the workouts you've had, and have you seen start to develop into other big men as well?
I think you're getting him. They're getting him, Mike. They're getting Nicklas.
Yeah.
Ask him. But it's been, as I said it in that press conference, and it's grown with other guys, certainly. I mean, it's not just limited to him. But there is no question that he epitomizes where we're trying to go with this. And the versatility, the ability to shoot, the ability to make decisions. He's got a very natural right hand, even though it's not a fully developed right hand yet in the sense of being confident with it. And a lot of times, in answer to your question, you can develop guys all you want, but until they have the confidence to navigate and make the decisions and do it in traffic, right? And do it when tough-mindedness, you know, the most important thing for a player is how do they deal when that tough-mindedness is really needed. And a lot of times when you're going through traffic, when you're making a play, that's when that tough-mindedness is needed. Well, you can have the greatest mindset in the world. If you can't pound that ball through there, okay, you're going to have a problem. Well, we're working on that with Nick right now. Like, use that right hand constantly. Finish, drive through the left shoulder, finish it, get that extension, dunk the ball. I mean, you name it, there's so many things. But if I could sum it up, the versatility, the multidimensional, it comes in right now to helping them be the most fundamentally sound and flexible basketball players that they can be, and see where that takes us.
Tom, are you staying at the Georgia Center?
I am.
And how often have you seen your wife since you first met with the team?
They've been here once. They've been here once a couple weekends ago. I don't know when they're coming back. Hopefully I will see them for a day before we go out on the recruiting period. And I did see my son pitch the other day before we went recruiting in the afternoon. So I've seen her here. I've seen her briefly. I miss my 22-year-old that's in LA. It's this job is cut into my travel to be able to go out and hang out with her in LA. So, but no, I talked to him. You know what I'm starting to do? I'm starting to learn how to FaceTime. I never liked that, right? But like my daughter started doing that in LA, so I'm starting to FaceTime them. I'm way behind. Like this year really taught me how to do a lot of my own stuff. But I'm doing that. But they'll be here soon enough. And she hasn't asked me to go look at any houses. She hasn't asked me to go look at any areas because she knows she's not going to listen to what I think anyways.
Quick question on Jordan Harris. I know you spoke about him earlier. Just kind of update on him. And in your eyes, is he still under any kind of suspension as far as the basketball?
Well, he's on the team, right? And it's like everything else, like I told the team at the very beginning. No assumptions, which means I may be telling you or showing you something that you've known since the 5th grade, but I can't assume you know it. All right? And there's going to be no judgments. And at the end of the day, things that have been done in the past, it's not like you can wipe them out, right? It's not like you can take things and say, okay, that didn't happen. But the bottom line is I'm not trying to judge it. I'm trying to evaluate. And I'm evaluating on a consistent daily basis, trying to assess it in my mind, talking to people, getting to know them. We've had probably, I don't know, maybe at least 5 nights that I've been in here, maybe 6, where it gets to be around 10:45, 11 o'clock at night, and there's still kids coming in and out of the gym and they're wandering through the office. And I like that, right? I mean, that's great. And so he's like everybody else. I mean, there's a tremendous opportunity here for him. And what you do with it is not just up to me, it's up to them, right? And because I'm not really going to deviate in how we do things. You know, most coaches that are going to have success aren't going to deviate. But you want people, you want a two-way street and how it's going to be. And I want to give people those opportunities. And that's exactly what we're doing.
So basically, he just needed to do what is expected of any other player to be part of
Well,
it.
I would think so. And I don't know all the particulars. I know enough about the past. I probably don't know everything about the past. But again, I'm trying to base it all on where we're at on a day-to-day basis. So we'll see how it all turns out.
Well, Seth Emerson,
Sure.
AJC, just to follow up on that, what hasn't been clearly explained is whether Jordan's status was related to the team or whether it was a school issue. Like, is this in your hands or are there other factors?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I don't know. I know that I've had, it was no issue for me to bring him back, right, to put him back on the team. Again, that's a good question because I don't know if there was anything with competition or anything like that. I just knew that he hadn't been a part of the team. But we're definitely checking on things on a consistent basis. The most important thing I'm trying to do is get to know him and him me just like everybody else. But I never did have anybody say, no, we couldn't do that. So I don't know how to read that. I don't think it's that much of a situation inside of there. But again, we're not in competition either, so I don't know.
You mentioned Matt.
You might know better than that on me. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah. You mentioned Matt Bucklin. Is he going to stay on?
I would think so. I have no reason not to want him, right? And he's been fantastic. And again, I would definitely see that. You know, he's been so busy doing things and with me and all the things that he's doing that I certainly don't approach him anything other than he's going to be here. So he's in that role. Now, we still have things that we got to fill, and we still probably have some spots to create as we go along. And I'm not at the spots to create position yet. I'll get there. But it's more about, again, researching, trying to figure this out. I'm trying to make sure that everything that we get has got that we can build a synergy, right? When you bring people in together and you haven't been together, it's going to take time for that. But getting people that can build that mutual respect over a period of time, that we really get to see, okay, this is what we want Georgia basketball to be. How do we work together to get that? Matt Bucklin, I think, is a huge part of that.
Are you going to bring in your own strengths coach?
Right now, we have Sean Hayes.
Sean Hayes,
has done a fantastic job.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job.
Cool.
I've hired one person so far.
Yeah.
So.
Coach Crean,
And it's not because
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm just going through the process of it, and we'll get there. I mean, I'm well aware of the time frames of recruiting, and it was so important to hit the ground running.
Sure.
All right? And obviously, I mean, Jonas' situation changed some things, but it hasn't changed the fact that we're going to still make sure that we get, you know, the best possible situation we can get for our staff.
Coach
We have
Crean,
time for one or two more questions.
one of the first people you met here seemed like was Chuck Dowdle. How was he important to adjust you to Athens here?
Well, I've done a couple interviews with him. He came to the workout yesterday. He recited some things back to me that he heard me say, so I know he was not only sitting there watching, he was really paying attention, but I think he'll be fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. When you get somebody that's a icon of the school or of the program or of the area, you're crazy not to utilize that. Some of my closest friends at Marquette in Indiana were those people that were already legends there before I ever met them, but we grew to have a friendship. So I mean, again, it has to happen organically as much as it can, but I'm learning more and more about what he means to Georgia, and he's certainly been great to me in my short time.
As far as you kind of waiting on hiring to sort of get a lay of the land, is that following kind of what you did in Indiana?
No, because I was bringing more of my staff there. Yeah, but I screwed that up too, right? You can rush and screw it up, and I didn't screw it up with bringing my former guys, but I'm really still in the process of, and some of the hiring is, okay, what else are we going to add? What else has to be in this program? And what other positions do we have to continue to add here that are going to give us the best chance? And I just coming over from doing a radio show in the football building, and I went and met with Scott, went in there, and Scott was in there and his staff. And that's one reason I was almost late. I stood there and talked to those guys for about 25, 30 minutes. This is my first time doing that, right? It's like you're sitting there in the learning and the energy, like there's so much I have to learn about Georgia. There's so much I have to learn about what makes you successful at Georgia when it comes to, not necessarily the X's and O's of the court or who you recruit, but all the other things that will help us. That I'm in the process of that. And every time I see something going on at baseball, or every time I get over there for football or something, we saw each other at Pro Day, right? And I went to the clinic or saw some of you at Pro Day. It's unbelievable. Were you guys at the clinic at all? There's almost 1,200 coaches at that. And it's not just who's speaking, it's the energy that's inside of that. So like that, it'd be really easy to get real urgent and say, man, we got to get this right now. Well, it doesn't work that way. We got to figure out how are we going to take the best steps, because it is April. How are we going to take the best steps to give us that best opportunity to move in that direction? So I'm trying to run by that rule of thumb as much as anything. Anybody else?
Guys, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks. Yep, absolutely.